Today, we'll be designing and making a Japanese tea light candle box with a Glowforge laser cutter. I'll show you my design process and how all the pieces come together to create this product. As an architect, I've always been inspired by Japanese architecture because of their thoughtful design, craftsmanship, and simplicity. My inspiration for this project comes from the design of traditional Japanese houses with pitched roofs, wood, and rice paper screens. With those images as inspiration, I start my design process using my iPad Pro, Apple Pencil, and an app called Trace by Morpholio. The idea is to focus on the three elements that I mentioned earlier: a simple design, pitched roof, and wood with paper screens. Sketching ideas and noting specific components is important for my design process. It helps me refine my ideas in a fraction of the time than if I were working in a 3D modeling or drafting software. In this design, you could see that the roof is sloping in 4 different directions. I actually decided to simplify this and use a 2-directional pitched roof instead. With this sketch complete, I load up my laptop and use a software called Rhinoceros, which is a CAD and 3D modeling app. I start by drawing a 5 1/4 inch square as the base. I offset the line by 1/4 inch inwards so that I could use it as a guide to draw tabs and slots for the pieces to come together. I draw a 1 inch long slot and make it as wide as the piece of 1/8 inch plywood that I'm using for this project. I've been finding a range of thicknesses of plywood, so it's important to adjust the thickness to match the specific one that you're using. With the base and slots drawn, I draw reference lines and design the walls of the tea light candle box. Reference lines help us align the width of the pieces with another one so that they can come together perfectly. The overall height of the flat sides without a roof will be 5 inches. I decided to use tabs that were 1 inch wide and spaced 1 inch apart to join the walls to the base and to each other. It's a simple detail that looks nice when it's assembled. The walls that will hold the roof panels will have a sloped top at 30 degrees and 1 tab at the center of each sloped line. This will allow us to align and join it with a slot in the roof during the assembly process. Once the walls were drawn, I used the slope lines on the wall as a start for the roof. I added slots and adjusted their width so there would be room for adjustment if necessary. I don't intend to glue the roof onto the top of the walls, so this won't be an issue. With the basic shapes of every piece designed, I use the extrude command, pull the shapes into 3D components, and rotate them into their proper orientation. I move every piece into place to construct a 3D model, which helps me check if the pieces are coming together as designed. After reviewing the model, I decided to enlarge the perimeter of the roof so it would overhang further beyond the walls. I also designed a grid of cutouts for the windows that'll be on each of the walls. Most of the houses that I looked at for inspiration used the frame as part of its overall design with a simple grid layout. The last step was to create another 3D model as a final check to see the overall design. Sometimes I end up refining a project even more at this point because I notice areas that aren't working the way that I imagined. In this case, I love how the design is coming out, so I export all of the pieces and gather my materials. For this project, I'll be using 1/8 inch walnut plywood from Glowforge, tracing paper, MaxiCure superglue, a rubber mallet, and either a real or an LED tea light candle. I set up my Glowforge laser cutter, place the 1/8 inch walnut plywood on the crumb tray, adjust the settings in Glowforge's online interface, and begin the process of laser cutting. What I love most about this Japanese tea light candle box project is how quickly all of the pieces are cut, which is roughly 25 minutes. Some of my other projects take about an hour to cut because there are lots of intricate pieces or layers that come together. While each piece is being cut, I watch to make sure that there aren't any issues with the file, like overlapping lines where the laser cuts the same area twice, and I also just admire the way that we can create custom products using technology. I remember the excitement I had while cutting my first project and all of the ideas that immediately came to mind. It's a magical experience to see something you designed come to life before your eyes. If you're interested in getting a Glowforge for yourself, I'll share a link in the description section of this video that'll get you up to $500 off of a Glowforge Pro. Once the pieces were cut, I removed them from my Glowforge and organized them on my work table. I remove the paper masking tape from each of the pieces. While peeling away the paper tape, I make sure I take my time around the thin window frames so that I don't snap the wood. This is also a moment where I get to see the finished walnut plywood hiding under the paper masking tape. It's one of my favorite finished plywood to use. Once the paper masking tape is removed, I take the trace paper pack and remove one sheet from it. I lay it on my cutting mat that has a grid of lines and use one side of the tea light candle box to figure out the overall size that I need to cut out. Using a metal ruler and a utility knife, I cut the trace paper into two sheets that are slightly larger than the overall perimeter of the windows. I make a second cut to get a small rectangle. I bring over my MaxiCure super glue and add a drop of it at each corner and at the center of each edge. I turn the paper around and lightly press down to glue the paper to the walnut plywood. I repeat this process with the remaining sides of the product. Be careful when doing this because the glue sets very fast and it could also mess up the beautiful finish of the wood. After each of the sides have the trace paper glued to them, I flip each piece over so that the trace paper is on the back. Using the MaxiCure glue again, I carefully apply it to the inner edge of the tabs that'll come in contact with the piece that joins with it. For the first two pieces, I lay one down on my table and bring over the piece that has the glue on it to join them together. I turn the pieces upright so that they're standing vertically on my table, and I repeat this process with the remaining two sides. When the four sides are joined together, I apply MaxiCure glue to the inner part of the slots at the bottom, align it with the base, and use my rubber mallet to join the pieces together. It doesn't take much force, but the mallet helps me get a tight fit for all of the sides to join with the base. The last step for the assembly process is simple. I bring over the roof without any glue in the slot and simply press it into place. I want to be able to remove the roof in the future, so I decided not to glue them down. I take a moment to admire the beauty of the finished product without the candle inside. I love how the trace paper resembles the rice paper that you would see in a window or door of a traditional Japanese house. The paper has a nice glow when there's light at the back of it. Even without the candle, I think it looks great. Since I have large hands, I pinch the tea light candle with 2 fingers, move it through the roof, and place it at the center of the base. Using an extended lighter, I light the candle and watch as the warm glow of light passes through the trace paper. With the light turned on, you could see the beautiful walnut finish of the entire product, as well as the cloudy translucent gray finish of the trace paper taking on the warm orange glow of the tea light candle. The tea light candle box has a simple aesthetic, and the elements of Japanese architecture that inspired its design could be seen throughout the product. Once the lights are turned off, you could see the beautiful glow and flicker of the candlelight emanating through the trace paper. This is a product that's beautiful wherever it goes. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love these wood projects that I've designed and shared here on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.